Hey everyone, okay, so today I'm going to just share a little story with you about my friend and myself. Now, I have been friends with the gentleman in question and we are just friends. So I know people will be like, oh yeah, we are just friends. We've been friends for 10 years, long time. And I haven't seen him for 2 years now. And last Thursday we met up and had a coffee and tried to reconnect, I suppose, from the 2 years that we spent apart. It's one of those situations, I think, where so much has transpired and so much has gone on in the past that some of you change and some of you don't. And those that change, and this is myself in question, you realise that there is just nothing left to connect you as there once was. And we met about 10 years ago, and he's a really nice guy, I think. And we had a wonderful time. There were so many good memories, so many happy times of fun things we did. We wrote lists out of things we wanted to do before we were 30. I'm 34 now, 35 shortly. So we did a lot of those things and had a lot of amazing times. We also had some incredibly miserable times. He has a level of jealousy, which is something I've never seen before. Even if you are talking to somebody completely benign, you're just talking about something benign, he just couldn't deal with you being friends and having friendships with anybody else. And over the course of the friendship, it takes its toll. And I think looking back at it all, the worst thing about it for me is that you always have your part to play in anything. I think there is always two sides to every story, and there is always situations where you could have handled things better, and I know that I could have handled things better. But what really pisses me off is that when I look back at it, I can't see a lot that I did wrong, and that in order to have your friendship removed and taken away from you. And whereas, his other friendships he kept, despite the fact that a lot of these people weren't very nice people. And it kind of, it still to this day bugs me a little bit that I was cast aside, but those that weren't around, especially when he needed them, he's got around him now. It's ironic. And what's very strange is that we worked together for 5 years, and it was one of those situations where you couldn't do anything. It was so claustrophobic and so intense, this friendship, and it was a friendship that you just couldn't deal with the situation. I remember him seeing a video that I did on YouTube, and I texted him to say, how are you? And his reply was like 8 hours later, and it was so curt and absolutely vile that I remember thinking, oh, here we go again. What have I done wrong now? And he was so unpleasant on this message and these texts, and I got them a lot. And I was so sick of it that I remember going to his house and just saying, look, what on earth is the problem? Because I have had enough of this. And it was because I'd done this video on YouTube and I hadn't told him about it properly. And it got all these views, and it caused him to what looked like absolutely hate me because of all these wonderful comments that were on there. And it was at that point that I remember thinking, right. And what I did, I went home and changed my mobile phone number. And the next day when I went into work to speak to him, he asked, I tried to text you last night, but it didn't go through. And I said, well, I got rid of my phone. Because that was the only way I could deal with the situation, was to basically say to him, I no longer have a phone. And for 2 years, I pretended while working there that I never had a phone. And the reason we met up again, long story I know, but nice to get it off your chest. The reason we met up again was because I bumped into a friend of his in town. And my mate has a tendency to find a relationship, and when he's in that relationship, no one else matters, no one else counts, and you are just tossed aside. And he was supposed to be getting married this year, and a friend of mine, we bumped into each other, and I was inquiring, saying, how is he? I hope he's well. And it was sort of relayed to me that the relationship wasn't very good at all, and the marriage was certainly not going to transpire. And that was very sad to me. And I emailed to say, I hope you're okay. I didn't mention anything about it. And that's why we met up. And I think one of the worst things about being friends at that time was this level of exaggeration that would go on. I'd rather hear a completely benign, boring story than one that's made up. And there was a tendency, probably half the time that we knew each other, to embellish stories to such a degree that they became lies. So when we sat down on Thursday to talk, I remember thinking, I'm not going to mention this relationship or anything like that in terms of it's ended or it's going badly or anything like that. I'm just going to ask how you are. And it was completely glossed over. Not one word was mentioned about the fact that he wasn't happy or that the relationship wasn't going as well. It was all how wonderful and amazing, just like it was in the past. Nothing had changed, just absolute nonsense. And I just remember sitting across from my friend of 10 years and thinking, there's just nothing here anymore, there's nothing left. Because whereas before you would have done anything in your power to make them happy and to support them, when you look at them now and they've not changed, they're still exactly as they are, and still that undertone of unpleasantness and that undertone of lies and exaggeration, you just think there's nothing left. And it's, I walked away from that night and I realized that I would never receive an email again from him to say, hi, how are you? And I realized I wouldn't send one because I think you reach that point where you just have enough. And I realized sitting there looking and talking to him again that I'd had enough. There was no longer anything there for me. And it's sad because, like I said, I don't believe I've done anything wrong to warrant, 2 years ago being tossed aside, basically saying, well, you haven't got a job anymore. There's nothing I can do about it, which wasn't true. And goodbye. Just like that for no reason. And thankfully leaving the work was the best thing I ever did, because it got me away from him and allowed me to breathe again properly. And it also allowed me to focus on what I love the best and love the most, and allowed me to go even further into my makeup career and make it, whereas before I was doing it on the side, it became a full-time job, and it was the best thing I ever did, because I've been doing makeup for years and years, but doing other jobs as well to support it. And it was a brilliant opportunity for me in the end. It didn't feel like it at the time, but in the end it was, because I got to do what I really wanted to do, full-time, 100%, and I haven't looked back since. But I still find it a little bit sad today that even a week on now, I still look at that situation and just think, well, there was still no answers to, what I did wrong, and I'm probably never going to know. But just thought I'd share because I'm in a melancholy mood. So I thought I'd share with you how I guess people change, and when some people don't change and you change, and the friendships that you once had, they're no longer what they were. So yeah, let me know your experiences with friends and how things have happened and how you've changed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.